to the Daily Ascent. I'm Molly Carmel, and this is the podcast I always wish existed. A bite sized, on the ground spiritual note that can shift your thinking and your outlook on life to make us all a little bit more awake, alive, and ascending. So, today I want to talk about something that hits so many of us, especially on Christmas. Merry Christmas to all of you who are celebrating. What it feels like to be the outsider in your family, the different one, the overly sensitive one if you're in my house, the unicorn in a herd of horses. And how we can love our families without losing ourselves in the process. I was talking to a coaching client of mine who I love so much. We have been working together for years. And very early on, we came upon this analogy that she is the unicorn in her family of horses. And honestly, if you've ever felt misunderstood or too emotional or too intuitive or too, fill in the blank, you know exactly what this feels like. And she had just gotten back from spending time with her family for the holidays, and she was really, really, really upset. And I get it. They installed the buttons so they know how to push them. All of her old wounds had gotten stirred up. She felt super unseen, ignored. And she was especially hurt by her dad, not because he didn't love her, but because he just loves her in a way that like doesn't register to her. And she said to me, I'm the unicorn and they are the horses. And maybe I just have to accept that they'll never give me what I need. And she was angry, like exhausted, angry, valid angry, the kind of angry that comes from being really, really lonely around the people who raised you. And let's be real, these days, people cut off their families for far less. This is a very touchy, tender place. But as she was talking to me, something came through that I'd never said to her before. And I said to her, well, a unicorn is also a horse. It's just an upgraded horse, like a magical horse, but it's still a horse. And, she kind of half laughed and half cried at me and half rolled her eyes. And I said to her, and I offer this to you, what if the answer is not to exile the horses or pretend or wish that they were unicorns? What if the answer is to love the horses as horses and then go find your unicorns, right? So we can love the horses just as horses, and then we can go and find unicorns that can meet us where we actually are. And it really registered with her because deep inside, she didn't want to punish her dad or not be in relationship with him. She didn't want to, continue to demand that he grow these unicorn wings. She just, a part of her really wanted to stop expecting him to be 6 feet tall when he's actually 5'6". He can't reach the shelf. He can't become a unicorn, not because he doesn't love her, because he doesn't have the reach. And so I offered to her, what if we just love your dad like the horse that he is, and then we go find you unicorns who can love you like you're a unicorn? And in that moment, she was really able to soften towards him and towards herself. And so that brings me to today's Pocket Sage. It comes from Courage to Change. That's an amazing reader from the Al Anon family programs. And it's really a good book about expectations and boundaries and emotional reality, which is what we're really talking about here. And here's the passage. Expectations are premeditated resentments. I cannot expect someone to give what they do not have. When I let go of demanding love in a certain form, I become free to receive the love that is actually there. And later in the reading, it says, accepting others as they are does not mean denying my own needs. It means choosing where I can go to have them met. I know I need to read this one 3 times, but I read it 2 times on the show. So I'm going to read it 2 times. You can pause, you can rewind. Okay. Expectations are premeditated resentments. I cannot expect someone to give what they do not have. When I let go of demanding love in a certain form, I become free to receive the love that is actually there. Accepting others as they are does not mean denying my own needs. It means choosing where I can go to have them met. You tell me that is not unicorn horse gospel. Am I right? So, our word of the day today is belonging. And I don't mean belonging that comes from shrinking yourself to fit in or pretending you don't need what you deeply need. You guys know me well enough by now. Belonging is being who you are and letting yourself be loved by people who can love you in that truth. But belonging sometimes also means staying connected to your horses and then also seeking out your unicorns, the friends, the partners, the communities, the soul people who speak your emotional language. Because belonging is something you build, not something you beg for, but you can have both. You can have horses in your stable and unicorns. Because there's real suffering, there's real deep, heartbreaking suffering in expecting people to love us in ways that they can't. Not in ways they won't. It's very different. In ways they can't. Unicorns and horses, they speak different languages. They're not wrong, right? They're just built differently. But pain comes when we keep trying to get emotional nourishment from someone who doesn't have that nutrient. When we keep reaching for the 6-foot shelf, expecting someone who's 5'6" to hand us the box, right? It's not fair to them and it's devastating to us. And it loses out on this ability to love people for who they are. I also want to note when we can love people for who they are, not who we wish they were, we can also love ourselves for who we are. And that's a very, very deep gift we can give ourselves. So the invitation here is this: love the horses as horses. I love horses, they're great. And then let them love you in the ways that they can. Stop punishing them for their limits. And then, with full permission, go find your unicorns. Go find the people who can meet your emotional reach, who understand your sparkle, who can reflect your sensitivity and depth back to you without blinking, right? You don't have to cut ties with your family. You also don't have to abandon your own emotional needs to keep them comfortable. Let people be who they are and let yourself be who you are and give yourself the belonging that you've been waiting for them to supply. And I want to note, right? I'm not talking about if your family is abusing you or anything like that. I'm talking about expanding your window of tolerance to love people. It's a great skill and it's a really great skill on Christmas. Okay? So here's my reflective question for you today. Where are you asking someone to give you something they simply don't have? And what might shift if you let them be who they are while giving yourself permission to find the people who truly see you? It's a win-win-win-win-win proposition, my ascenders. So I am sending so much love to all of the ascenders, all of the unicorns today, loving your families without losing yourselves, finding your people, remembering that your sparkle is a gift. And remember, if this podcast really spoke to you today, send it to another unicorn. They really, really need it. I promise. Until next time, Ascenders.